Well, hello, seekers. Welcome back to my podcast, Almost Buddha. I have an interesting guest with me, and his name is John Manoa. Hi, John. How are you doing?
Hello, Bhavesh. I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. First of all, thanks a lot for joining my podcast.
Definitely. So, first of all, thank you, Bhavesh, for inviting me to your podcast. I'm very honored. Yeah, I'm John Manoa. I am an author, musician, writer, and a novelist.
As well as a IIM graduate.
I'm, yeah, I am alumni. I did my executive MBA there, so that was another great experience. So that's who I am. I finished my engineering in 2003. I got into a technology job. Then, in 2003, as you know, the whole software boom happened. And so I was
Yeah.
one of those guys lucky to ride the wave, right? So I always tell that within 2 years, I actually surpassed my dad's salary.
Oh,
So with so much of opportunities and boom, I quickly climbed the corporate ladder. Worked with companies like Tesco, Apple, Boeing, Lululemon, and all these big giants. So all through
nice.
my technology life, that's what I've been doing, acting both as a leader, technology consultant, product manager, etc.
Yeah, it's so important to when you said that you rode the wave, right? I was surfing. I was learning to surf in Nicaragua last year. Okay,
Mhm.
and the timing of riding the wave is so important. You know,
Super.
you have to be prepared before the wave comes in. Like for instance, 2003 is when I enrolled in a university. I graduated my high school in 2002, and it's just a matter of, I would say, 5 years, because I finished my master's in 2008, and that was the recession year. So by that time the wave was already gone, and I was in the recession time. So when I came out of my university, there were no jobs available.
There were jobs. Yeah, I
So
mean,
yeah.
for me, if you actually look at it, 2002 was the Twin Tower falling incident and all of
Yeah,
that. So,
2001, I guess, right?
2001. So, 2003, things just, got back to normal and the boom started happening. So, yeah, I
Yes.
count myself lucky because, it was the right time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
You were
that's,
when that wave came, you were standing on the surfboard ready to ride the wave, and I was still swimming to get over there. And by the time I graduated, the wave already passed. So tell me your journey of following your dreams, like how your corporate experience got in sync with your experience of coming to Canada, your journey to come to Canada, and eventually just started creating the music albums that you are creating since past 5 months, and writing a book. I guess you're launching one more book. Yeah, let's talk about that.
yeah, definitely. So, if you actually look at my career, right? So I was somebody who was pretty much against this 9 to 5 schedule. If at all, the wave, the right time at the wave, I would have chosen to move out of this 9 to 5 routine long time back,
Hmm.
right? Because I always had aspirations in life, and I wanted to do my stuff, what I like the most, and so that was my goal. But this whole comfort zone of getting into a big multinational company and getting paid well, and you're being in a
Yes,
comfort zone,
I
it
know.
usually brings you down, right? You're like, why should I even try something else when things are all going
Yeah, exactly. And then you
so I
start
think
picking up hobbies.
yeah, so I think the first 5 to 10 years, that's where I was. So I had already traveled around the world for business, based on work. I was married early on. I had children. So by the time I hit 30, I had a family. I had children and all. But then this whole dream, that the aspiration that I had, started haunting me. It's like Steve Jobs at the age of 30 was the most valuable person on
Most.
earth,
Yeah,
right?
worth
And
what,
I'm
2 billion something.
yeah, and I'm sitting in some corporate office and just being an obligator, right? Just fulfilling others, what others need. So, but I always had this in mind that life is though it's short, you will have an opportunity to do it sometime. You don't have
Yeah.
to be impulsive and act immaturely. So I always thought, time will come when things would be conducive for me to do. So I think I spent another 5 years like that. By 35, I gave up. I was like, I've been working for almost 15 years in Bangalore. Job, house, everything. It's a Monday. So
Yeah.
then I said,
In
what,
alignment with the obligator.
yeah. So I said, what, I'm gonna drop out of it. So the first thing I did was we decided, like I told my wife that why don't we just move out of this country, right? It's been 15 years, enough for an experience. Why don't we go explore something else? My wife is my partner in crime. She is my pillar. So she's one of those women who kind of supports the husband. So not only this, any wacky thought that I go tell my wife that, do you think we can do it? She'll be the one saying, why don't we try it, right?
Yeah.
So that's where
having that partner is so important. Like, when you are in a state of mind where you don't really know what I can do or what I'm capable to do, you're just your partner saying you that yes, you are capable, give it a shot, and I'm right behind you, I'll take care of it.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I'm again lucky to have her. So when I opened this idea of moving to another country, my wife was like, yes, I'm all in, let's go, right? So we applied for many countries, and then Canada was the one that welcomed us. So when we moved to Canada, it was again a big adventure, right? So I have me, my wife, and 2 children, a 2-year-old boy and a 7-year-old boy. So when I told my parents and my in-laws that I'm moving out to a country, the first question they asked was, "Oh, your company is sending you?" I said, "No, I'm going on my own." They're like, "Oh, so you already have a job there? You're going to go to?" I said, "No." So
I'm going to find a job.
Yeah. So they're like, "You're going to take your family along to a country, to a place where you don't know anybody, and then you're going to settle down. You're going to find a house, buy your cutlery, bed, pillow, everything. You have to find
that's so against the traditional mentality of, where our parents come from a background where they work for 15-18 years for one company, and they would be like, yeah, this is where I'll retire, and you riding the wave of the risk.
Yeah, so that's a big what do you say, a challenge that I had to face that time. But then my dad is a very very progressive guy, so he said, go on, what's going to happen, right? You go on. And I still remember his words. He said, wherever you go, the paths will bloom. I still have that in mind. By the way, I lost my dad last year.
So I'm so sorry.
Yeah, the last thing that I in my farewell when we were leaving India, so that's what he said. Wherever you go, your path will bloom. So I had that in mind, and I said, you know what, I'm going to keep that as an inspiration. Canada, it's a path, and I think things will work, right? So when we came to Canada, I resolved that for the first 2 or 3 years, I'm gonna just settle down, right? I'm not gonna do anything wacky, risky. I'm going to make sure that we settle down, we know the place, we get a job, we have a stream of income and all of that. And my plan was after 2-3 years, after I settled down, to slowly start taking external things like writing a book, music album and all of that. And then COVID occurred. it was like fate telling me that your time has come.
It was COVID was a devil in disguise, and I would say not devil in a disguise of actually it was a
blessing in disguise.
Blessing in a disguise of a devil. So tell me more. And then
so what happened was when the whole COVID happened, it impacted me in 2 ways, right? One is I had a lot of time sitting at home. Right now I'm at home, and by work, if it takes 6-7 hours a day, the rest of the day is with me, as opposed to when I drove to work, I had a lot of time driving, I was tired and all of that, so it gave me time. The second and the most important thing that it actually gave me was the realization that life is very uncertain. If you wait for an opportunity to knock your door, it may never happen. And you need to jump in. It's literally go and jump a cliff, and then you build a
Yeah, and then you build a
parachute and then
parachute on the
land,
way down.
and if you don't, you die. So that's how much life is, how uncertain life is, right? So
Yeah,
when that thought struck me, I was like, if not today, then never. So then I
yeah,
said, you know what, this is probably the best opportunity time for me to start focusing on what I love the most. And then I started making a board. So in the board, I said, what do I like? Okay. So I've been a musician all my life, born in a Christian family, very Orthodox family. So church and music and choir singing and hymns and all of that were part of our life. So I grew up as a musician. Very soon, for me, music is one of the best, one of my best friends, right? It's one of the best way to express oneself. So right from my childhood, I've been close with music. I've been part of bands. I've performed. I wrote my songs. I've composed songs, and play in church and play in
yeah,
concerts and all of that.
yeah. But you
But
always
it's
looked at it as a hobby, but not
the
as a
second,
career.
yeah, it's always a hobby, and I never thought of making it my mainstream or spending time on that. So then I said, you know what, that is number one. Second thing is writing. So writing is again my passion. So I always say this when I lie down on the bed, and when my head is on the pillow, when I close my eyes, I find it very difficult to sleep because my brain is still thinking a lot of things, and most often I'm making a movie. I'm literally
Mm.
directing a movie in my brain, right? So I have so many ideas about there's so many plots, stories, and all of that. So I thought, why don't I start writing what I have in my mind.
Yeah,
Now, all of this were primarily because the aspiration that I have is you have one life, right? That's what we know, that we don't have multiple lives, one life. And then if you die, either you die and nobody cares,
acknowledges it.
or you leave a mark in the history. So even after we are gone, something that we did speaks forever. So
True.
for me, that's very, very important. I said, I'm gonna just
Vanish.
just be like anybody and just vanish, but
Yeah,
do something that could help people. It's not only to promote or to make a mark in history. It's also, in a way, that's something that we do that helps people. If I write a novel, and if it's helping people relax, great. If I'm
yeah,
composing music, and if it's helping people relax and enjoy, that's a service.
yeah,
If I'm writing a book about leadership, and if it's helping people or companies, that's again.
yeah,
So doing something that helps others, and even after you're long gone, or even while you're alive,
yeah.
helping others is what I had in mind, and that's the whole motivation
This
for me.
is, yeah, this is so fascinating. Yeah. So, I was, so right now I'm doing a series on Bhagavad Gita. Okay. And one of the chapters Bhagavad Gita talks is, it says that the life inside you, okay, that is called Jivatma. All right. And that is connected to your physical body through three modes. Okay. First mode is sattva, second mode is rajas, and third mode is tamas. Okay, so sattva is your feeling of service. Okay, the goodness into you. Rajas is the passion inside you, and tamas is the demon inside you. Okay, now your passion is gonna be consistent. Now it's up to you. If you mix your passion with sattva, if you mix your rajas with sattva, then you create something beautiful for the betterment of the world. And if you mix your passion with your tamas, that is demon, you are the demon of your own life.
Mm,
So and it resonates so much, like you were passionate, but that passion was again in link with the sattva part of you, the sattvic part of you. and that made you create the music for people to relax, as well as write the novel for people to read and understand um, the family dynamics. I believe that's what your novel talks about, right?
Yeah,
Tell me
yeah.
more about your novel.
Yeah, so the novel, it's titled Amygdala. So amygdala is a part of the brain that is responsible for emotions, right? So they did a research about a chronically blind person that they can't see. So they put a poster of a person staring at that person, and they could see their amygdala being active, which literally means that even if you're not looking at somebody, if somebody is looking at you from behind, your brain kind of alerts you to turn around. I think you would have noticed, right? If you're in a bus, if you're on a bus, riding a bus, and there's a person who's constantly looking at you, you inadvertently turn and look at them, right? Your body,
Yeah.
you know. So that's because of the amygdala. So that's a very scientific. There's a lot of research going on that particular term. Why people are able to see or know
Yeah.
consciously
And
that
even if the
somebody is
guy
looking.
was blind, he was able to
He
do
was able to. I mean, he was not able to see, but his amygdala was doing some
responsive
activity.
to it.
Yeah, responsive to it. And also, amygdala is the one that gives you the fight or flight response, right? So when you're faced with danger, how you react is because of your amygdala. So this is the science or the part of that. So why I named it amygdala is so this is about a family, a father with his two sons, father, mother, two sons are going to a vacation. And this father constantly has a feeling of somebody staring at him. So whenever he turns around, he doesn't see anybody staring at him. But when he's not looking, he always has this feeling that he's staring. So the whole story is about whether his intuition was right or wrong. Was there somebody staring at him? Yes or no? And why were they? If that is true, why they were staring at him, and how he got into trouble later, and how he eventually came out of the trouble. So it's all about that kind of an adventure.
Nice.
It's a vacation turned
Yeah, so
ridiculous turn of events.
it's a beautiful way to put it. Like, I am not into novels, but I feel like I want to read yours. You know,
Yeah, you should
um,
decide.
yeah. I guess I do read fables, but not novels.
Yeah, so the way I wrote is when it's a bite-sized novel. I think there are only 60, 70 pages. So it's like watching a movie. So
Oh,
if you're on a plane, you read this book, you literally like in an hour you'll end a movie, right? So it's like you'll literally end this novel, and it's
yeah.
like you'll have to dream.
Nice, nice. I'm definitely while I'm traveling to India,
On
I will put it. So it's available on Amazon.
Amazon, it's available on
Okay,
Amazon.
okay. So, just a side note to the readers, to the listeners as well as the viewers, because I'm gonna post it on podcast as well as on YouTube. That I will provide the link of Amazon in the description of the video, and you can definitely download it. And it's an interesting book. John has other projects also on his pipeline. John, tell me more about the projects which you have in your pipeline.
Okay, the other book that I very recently published is called 10 Pragmatic Leadership Principles from the Bible. So, as I told you, I was born in a very Orthodox Christian family, and Bible, Sunday school, church, and all was part of our life, right? So, being so close with religion, right, and church and everything. When I grew up, as I was growing, I had these questions about why is there religious intolerance, right? Because every religion has its own pride, and which is like a very small child coming to us and saying, "My daddy's strongest," right? Everybody says, "Oh, so cute." This child is saying, "So cute." But imagine the child turns and says, "But your dad is a coward." That's when we're like, hey, that's not good, right? So for me, religion is also like that. Everybody has pride in their religion, but there's no reason to go and blame other religions, right? So I always looked at religion as a medium of knowledge, a medium of unity, a medium where people can, share and learn from each other, which unfortunately is not how everybody looks at religion. So for me, instead of bringing the unknown God in a religion, instead of bringing that person and fighting around that person,
Yeah.
why don't we look at other perspective of religion? For example, take the Bible that I've read all my life in and out. Instead of looking at God and evangelism and talking about all that, why can't we look at leadership? Is there leadership tenets in the Bible? There are so many.
So many.
Do people read about it or think about it? No, because they're busy fighting about the
Yeah.
whole God aspect and all of that. So that's what triggered me. So I thought, okay, I'm not gonna talk about any new leadership topics. I mean, if you read my book, I've written 10 principles, and none of them are like groundbreaking, something that you've never thought.
Never heard about or never thought about. Those are
These
the
are
day things.
Yeah, these
but
are
at the
day
same
to
time, it
day.
makes sense.
So my book would only remind you that, oh, this is a particular tenet, and this is how the Bible talks about it, and this is what we should adapt, and this is how we should change in order, for a particular scenario to change in our workplace, etc. So that's my prime driver behind this book. One is to come up with leadership principles, but also make sure that you use religion for a different purpose. Instead of fighting and all of that, you use religion for another purpose, like to love others, to learn leadership principles, to share, etc.
Yeah, true. Well, that's the whole purpose of me starting this podcast, where I also resonate with, and I guess that's how we got connected. That we think of religion from a point of view where it needs the 2.0 version, where we are talking about religion in terms of how we can bring the betterment in the society, as well as how we can. New generation doesn't want to fight. I feel the new generation, they just have a progressive point of view, but it's again the politics, it's again the way the preaching is going around the religion. That is what we think we should change. And now, for example, in Vedas, it's written that there are two types of Vedas. Okay, not the types of Vedas, but the two types of scriptures. Okay, so one is a Smriti and another is a Struti. So Smriti is a story which eventually gives a lesson out of it, because it's a memory. Smriti is the memory, and Struti is the theoretical aspect of the religion. So every religion, doesn't matter if it is Hindu, Christianity, whatever, but it will have these two aspects. One aspect would be the Smriti, the story around the religion, and other would be Struti. So if we are focused towards the Struti part of the religion, if we are focused towards the preaching, the learning out of it, rather than talking about if the story is right or wrong, story doesn't matter as far as it's teaching us what is bringing us out as a human by following those religion aspect. That's the key aspect.
That's brilliant. Yeah, that's exactly what I had in my mind when I wrote this. Right, it's about focus on what the message and how it can impact our lives in a better way than fighting for controversial things that every religion has. So so that's something that I follow a religion called the religion of peace, right? And I always have this in mind that every religion, right, all religion that have been in this world had one goal, and that goal is happiness, eternal happiness, right?
Eternal happiness.
Our world, today's life, we have like so many issues, like we have pain, we have death, we have starvation, we have financial troubles, we have sickness. So humans are very scared of these kind of things, right? But we all hope for a future where we don't have any of this. Imagine a life where we don't have hunger, we don't have death, we don't have sickness, we don't have any need. That's the moksha that everybody wants. So if you actually see, all religion promise that, right? All the religion would promise that at the end of the day, you will have a place where you can, Christianity calls it heaven, Islam calls it paradise, probably Hinduism calls it moksha.
Actually, no.
Okay.
Moksha is a term for Buddhism.
Okay.
Hindu religion doesn't talk about it. In fact, Hindu
Don't
religion
talk about
says,
it.
yeah, according to Hindu religion, it says that it's all your karma. Okay, if you
Okay.
have good karma, if you're performing good right actions in sync with your sattva that we talked about, right?
Hmm.
So if you are passionate about your sattva, eventually the sum of your karma will lead you to a space where your soul gets integrated with the super soul.
So, okay.
Yeah, and you
And
don't have
that's
to go through that cycle of birth and death all over again.
oh, and
So
that's eternal happiness. So
that's the
once you
eternal
mix with the
happiness.
super soul, okay, okay.
Yeah, and whereas Buddhism, they don't believe in the concept of super soul. That's the
Mm-hmm.
line between Hindu and Buddhism.
Mm-hmm.
So Hindu believes that God is a super soul; it's an eternal soul, and Buddhism believes that the eternal soul is inside you. You can become Buddha, because Buddha became Buddha, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So even you can become Buddha. There's no such concept of eternal soul. You are your demon, you are your devil, at the same time you are your divine. So it's up to you how you can bring out the best out of you, and
Mm-hmm.
if you are able to bring out the best, then you are in a state of nirvana. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, what I'm saying is I resonate with that, right? So at the end of the day, I think everyone's aspiration, I think um, deep inside is about happiness. We want peace, we want happiness, a life where there is no pain, no
Yeah,
issues. We want. So
for
I think
example,
every
your happiness came out of when you quit your 9 to 5, and you were able to follow your passion in terms of how you can entertain your readers as well as your
yeah,
listeners.
yeah,
So and
definitely.
by creating such a beautiful music, I was listening to the music which you shared. By the way, I'll put the link as well as in the description. And it was the first one you shared me. I guess it has what, 18K views already.
Yeah.
uh, yeah, I just played
So
it in the background and I was working, and it kept me so involved that I did not realize that it was a 30 minutes thing.
yeah, so that's an album. So I could talk about that. So the title of that album is called "In Times of Despair." So when the pandemic started, when I read the news, when I watched the news, I could see everybody in a sense of despair. Everyone's attitude towards life was very low. People were questioning, and everyone was scared. So I thought at this time, the best we can do is, have sort of consolation. So you could have consolation in terms of, talking to friends, reading a book, or even sometimes listening to music. So the words in music is also in a song is also very important, right? So that's why if you listen to all the 5 songs all talk about happiness, consolation, comfort during times of trouble, and how to encourage yourself and how to come out of
Yeah,
depression
yeah.
and stuff.
It's that time of despair when actually we needed such type of music to
Mm.
just keep people waiting for the right vaccine to come out, and finally we
Mm.
have. I feel this is the best thing which humanity did. In the start of this year, we just stepped into a pandemic, and by end of the year, we are listening the stories of a vaccine being rolling out. And I guess so, Rob Ford was waiting at the Pearson airport when when the first batch of vaccine was coming in
Oh,
Canada.
oh,
So
in Ontario.
yeah, well, Toronto's mayor is Rob Ford.
Mayor. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so he was literally waiting at the Pearson airport at like 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. for to receive the first batch of vaccine.
Oh,
And we are we are a small population in Canada,
mm,
definitely, but there are countries like states which is being hit the most.
yeah.
India, where people can't even afford the vaccines. I don't really
Mm,
know how the distribution will go through, and it's these times when we still need your songs to be around to motivate people. It's just the vaccine has been rolled out. It has not reached each and every person. yet.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's very true, and that's the whole point of this music and album. And as I told you before, my music. I mean, for me, music is an amazing friend. Music has a language. Music talks to us, and music can console and comfort people, right? So if I could do anything, I mean, if my music could give like 30 minutes of peace to somebody, that's, I think, mission accomplished.
Yeah, true. So, were you facing any challenges during this time? Because it's at the end of the day, we all are humans, you know. You
Mhm.
might be having certain uncertainties in your mind as well. What made you just focus on your music, focus on your book, focus on the content that you're creating rather than consuming the content? Like, you know, there were so many things on Netflix going on, so many series. People are talking about all those series, but you know, what I say to people, rather than consuming the content, you should create the content, and that's what will make you a standout.
Yeah, that's a great question, Amish. I think nobody is immune to uncertainties and depression and all of that, right? So especially when you have a goal to reach, there are always hindrances, right? So the kind of hindrance that I faced was general anxiety. I still remember I sat at a table across my wife, and I was telling her that for some reason I have a feeling that I'm not good enough to do something. So I'm not starting to do something because I feel my final output will not be good enough, right? I mean, this
I
if you
so
talk to
resonate
any
with you on this feeling. Yeah,
if you talk to any psychologist, they say this is like a very common sort of anxiety that
yeah.
everybody
It is
has.
called analysis paralysis mode.
Yes, analysis paralysis, and also this is like a very early stages of anxiety that almost everybody has, and this is the main cause of procrastination. Most of the people procrastinate because they think, uh, let me wait, because anyway, what I'm going to do is not going to be great, right?
Hmm.
So where I mean, this is something that I went through because I'm going to write a book, and what if this book is not good? What if a critic says this is garbage? I'm going to release an album. What if somebody, a musician, a great musician, says this is rubbish? This music is not going to work, right? So that was a challenge that I faced, and the way I overcame it was I read a lot of books. I watched a lot of psychology related videos, and one tip, there was a TED talk by a very famous person. I forget her name. I should write it down. So she said the best way to tackle this is to expect a failure and do something, or expect a bad job and do something. So she says, if you want to write, let's say you're going to write an essay or write a story. If perfection is keeping you from doing it, why don't you aim for imperfection, right? You
Yeah,
expect it to be imperfect, and you start writing. So in that way, you start, right? The first step is the most difficult step, right? In anything. So
yeah,
50% of the job is done if you take the first step, and the remaining journey is the rest 50%, right?
yeah. Are you talking
So
about that author who wrote The Gift of Imperfections? She's also a woman. I forgot her name as well.
okay, TED
But
Talk. I can, yeah, I forget her name. How can I forget her name? Yeah, that was very motivating to me. So I was like, wow. So if my attitude is to create something perfect, then I'm obviously panicking. But if my objective is to create something, forget the perfection, create something, then I'm not panicking, right? Because I'm not going to judge. Nobody's going to judge it. So
yeah,
that was one of the key lessons that I learned. And that's why when I write a book, both these books, the way I wrote was I just randomly write what comes to my mind, not worrying about grammar, structure, or even sense. Is it making sense? I don't know, but I'm just writing it. I just kept
hmm,
writing. Anytime I have a break, I have something, I have the inspiration to write, I just write. I just write, not expecting it to be perfect. the way it ended was at the end of 2-3 months, I had so much content. Now I've written so much content, I had to now go through and review them. So when I reviewed them, I found certain things not at all good, so I kind of chucked them out. I found certain things written, I like the objective of what was written, but it was not conveyed properly, so I had to reword them. So in a way, I kind of went step by step, and then made the total content, the end content. With music also, that's exactly what I did. Instead of looking at Mozart or great musicians like A.R. Rahman, and instead of doing that, I just started playing the tune. I just started playing. If there's a drum kit, I just started playing. And then when you hear it, the first version, it doesn't sound good, but it at least gave me an idea of, okay, so this is what I'm aiming at. And then I started perfecting each of those tracks and combining them. And at some point, this was a big motivator, because you're into it now, right? Previously, I didn't even start it, so I was like very scared, and I had my own inhibitions. But the moment I'm into it now, then that was a motivation to kind of keep progressing until you finish.
Yeah, well, that's such a beautiful thing for our listeners who are upcoming, who are willing to create their content and eventually show it to the world. There's no other judge other than you who's gonna judge you. So the best way is to just produce it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's an important lesson that I learned, and I think anybody can follow. It's like, if you have a passion to do some art, just do it, right? I mean, if it is not good, that goes to the bin, but you at least attempted it, you tried it. But what if it becomes an amazing piece of art? So imagine. So that's the whole motivator behind.
That's what brought Justin Bieber on the. He was just creating videos and putting it on YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've never heard this.
So that's Justin Bieber's story. He was he's also from Ontario, actually, somewhere around Sarnia somewhere, and he just used YouTube as a platform to just create the videos, post up there, and eventually today he's Justin Bieber. So
that's awesome.
And we have so many such stories of the new world's influencers, all the influencers out there. The whole stream of influencers is it's already a job title now for people, and they are influencing people because they are just stepping out of their day-to-day activity, stepping out of their comfort zone, and eventually doing what they love to do.
Yeah. So that's why my LinkedIn profile, right? So my LinkedIn profile is very strange. I don't know if you had time to read it, but it says top 5 reasons to not hire me. Okay. So I've had people turn down jobs because they say you're like too playboyish because you're writing garbage there, right? But what I've written there is 5 things why you shouldn't hire me. It's like very sarcastically written. So one of the last points that I wrote there was, I hate work. Okay. The reason I hate work is, when you love what you're doing, it's actually not work. Correct? Mm-hmm. So it's only work because you have to do it and you're forced to do it, or you have commitments to do it. So you're going and doing it for the heck of it. That's work.
Yeah.
But when you love something, you're not actually working. You're actually doing, what makes you happy. So that's why I've written, I hate work. So if there's a company that's offering me a job where I have to work, I may not take it. But if there's a company that says, or if there's an opportunity where I can do what I love to do, that's what would inspire me. So I've written something like, I don't want a Monday blues and Friday jubilation. You know what happens? Monday, everybody says, it's Monday, and Monday is gone. And Friday, everybody's like, Friday, it's great. TGI. I don't want that. I want every day to be happy.
To be driven, yeah. Well, that's where I would resonate what Bhagavad Gita teaches. Bhagavad Gita says that so your karma, you should be driven by your karma, but your karma is your activity. It's not the work. Okay, so the work is assigned to you, but the activity is done by you.
Done by. Oh,
And when you are doing a job, your job is not your responsibility, but it's your duty. So if you look at your job as your duty, and there are only two types of duties that you can perform. Either you can perform a physical duty or you can perform a spiritual duty. So your physical duty should be in synchronization with your spiritual duty, and eventually everything will come into place.
yeah, that's totally correct. Yeah, that's exactly what I written in my LinkedIn profile. When I say, you know what I'm looking for is an adventure, and I always believe that when you're happy, when you do what you love, you don't worry about overtime. You don't worry about going to work, right? It's about enjoying what you do.
Yeah.
And, that's something
Actually,
that
that's how all of us, we started our corporate life when we were. I remember my early days of my corporate life, and eventually, because of the feeling that you're talking about, I quit my 9 to 5 because, honestly speaking, I was playing pool at my office for good 3 hours, every day, which I was so good at playing pool that I actually last year joined a league and I reached semifinals. So. And I learned pool just at my work because there was a pool table at work,
Yeah.
But
That's where your passion is.
yeah, coming back to the conversation that we started our corporate life where we were putting in good 12 hours, 15 hours. I remember, in India, that's how we work. We don't take long breaks, and even if we take a long break of 30 minutes, we compensate it with 60 minutes or 90 minutes because we took a 30 minutes break. So I remember my days where I was working good 12 hours, 18 hours. Sometimes I would just go home to sleep and then come back to work and work again. But yeah,
slogging.
yeah. And at that time it seemed like work. It did not seem like a duty. But if you change your perception towards your work as a duty, and you look at your duty as a bigger picture of bringing something good, mixing your sattvic nature with your passion, with your rajas, then you create beauty, and that's how you create content which is consumable. So
that's rightly put.
Yeah.
I'm so happy that you said that.
Yeah. So tell me more about your family, about your, I would say, your social life. How are you tackling with, well, definitely COVID has been a boon to you. Except that, there have been people who lost their families as well. I hope from your family and everything was fine. People were following the norms, which are the physical distancing, the new norms of the COVID world. Tell me more.
So personally, this whole lockdown didn't affect me at all. For me, it's like great. Right? I have no other opportunity that nobody's going to bother.
Finally, you don't have to commute,
right? I don't have to bother anybody. I don't have to commute. So in a way, I kind of enjoyed this whole lockdown. And my children, they were also, because of the lockdown, they were in the house, right? They were also inside the house. And I see that my two sons are 5 years apart. So my elder is 5, elder is 10, the other is 5. So they always had this different sets of friends, and they never played with each other. So I find that they were forced to play with each other because they had no other things to do. So that was a great thing, right? I told my wife that this is great. Now mothers, they're
creating the bond, right?
Yeah, the bonding. They're playing with each other and helping each other. So that's great. The other thing is, again, the whole time that I have to create all my music and the book and all of that is amazing. So that's one of the things. So the other thing I did was cooking. So I
also saw your cooking video. That was That was a nice touch. It
Yeah,
didn't look like it's your first video.
oh, is it? Thank you so much. The whole thing about cooking is, if you ask my parents, right, my mom always used to complain when I was growing up that I never liked food. I was forced to eat all my life in my childhood, and for me, eating is more of a need than an experience. Correct. But then, like everybody else, I joined college, and then your dormitory, your hostel food, and all of
Yeah.
that. That gave me the realization that food itself is a science, right? Food and taste is science, right? So being a bachelor, staying alone in Bangalore and all of that, I used to out of need, I used to try a lot of
Recipes.
food myself. But then once I got married, my wife has an she back in Bangalore, she was a baker. She had an online business where she made birthday cakes, designer birthday cakes. So she makes the Barbie doll cakes, the character cakes, and all of that.
Wow.
So she was a big inspiration. So I initially started helping her for her cake business, which eventually led me to learn cooking and all of that. So then I started watching shows like the Australia's MasterChef, which is
Yes.
one of my favorite shows.
Yeah.
Then I don't know if you know the chef called Vikas Khanna.
Yes.
Vikas
Yes.
Khanna
Yeah.
is
I'm
an
also
amazing.
actually I'm also a lot into cooking, so I know that
Awesome.
the
There you
chef
go.
you're talking about. Yeah.
So Gordon Ramsay, and so these are some of the chefs that I follow, and I follow a channel called Tasty. Tasty. They
Yes.
make up
Yes. I
recipes.
know that channel. I follow that channel as well.
My inspiration was to create a video like Tasty. So if you see that video, it'll
Yeah.
be very much like the Tasty kind of a setup. And the other thing I've seen is, Indians would agree with me that we spend a lot of time cooking. For some reason, I don't know why. One of my managers used to say, "You Indians cook for 2 hours, but you finish eating in minutes." Right? That's how
Yes.
we quickly eat and we go away.
Yeah.
But he says we Americans, we cook for just 10 minutes. We make a sandwich, but we sit around the table and talk for 2 hours.
Yeah.
So for me, one of the passions is to simplify this whole cooking, right? I mean, why should we spend so much time? Can we quickly put up tasty food? So that's why my channel's name is Gourmet Samayal, and Samayal is cooking, the word cooking in my mother tongue, which is Tamil. So gourmet is like the gourmet is the whole food, the entire beauty of food, right? So my aim is to kind of help people create simple gourmet food at home, right? With ingredients that you find. So all these fancy food that you see, the amazing, beautiful looking, photographically elegant
Yeah.
meals, we can create them at home. That's what the restaurants do. They make it look so nice and taste good also. And
Yeah.
cooking also follows certain scientific principles, which once we know, then we can actually do a good job there. So that's one of my other passions that I'm following. So I did that. So I had the time to set up the setup for.
Yeah, I saw that. That those two spoons with like I thought maybe it's I thought maybe it's an image that you put it on the video, but then I realized it. Your hand was passing by. I realized it's such a good creative touch of it. All you
my
had
wife,
to put two
she
spoons.
set the stage. So credits to my wife. So she said, let's do this whole. She set that up.
Yeah.
And I did the cooking. So it's the first video is about biryani, which is like a very famous staple food back in India. The biryani. So the South India, in our place, we do a different type of biryani. So that's what I have. So I have plans to even release a video for making ginger beer at home. I brew at home. Right?
Oh, you brew at home. Nice.
Oh yeah, I do ginger beer, kombucha, tepache, and all of that. They're very simple actually. Once you know the concepts, they're pretty easy and nice to. It's a nice hobby to create your own food, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So
I used to.
it's a blessing in disguise, right? So there are so many. I definitely am with people who lost their loved ones, and there is a lot of pain that it created. But the silver lining is that it also opened a lot of possibilities, right?
Yeah. So what's your plan for I would say next few years to grow your content that you have started, right? So one is writing, second is music, third is cooking, and
Cooking.
where do you see all three of them going in 2021?
Oh, definitely. So all of them. So I have a plan for all of them. So I've already started contemplating on my next topic for the book. So it'll be mostly for young people to have a good perspective of life. So I somehow feel that when you're young, especially when you're like teens, 13 to 25, is when you take key decisions in life, and I somehow feel that if you take good decisions during that time, there is a good possibility that you could do well, and have a good perspective in life. So I want to write a book there. Again, it will have a little bit of religious connotation, but it's not evangelical, but it'll be very it'll be more counseling. It'll be more about how to make the right choice in whatever, in your studies, your life, and all of that. So
Yeah.
that's something that I want to release by mid 2021. In terms of my music, I'm already part of a few music groups. Short film and movie groups in Vancouver. So we were going to release a movie May 2020. I was going to play the background score for that. It's a short film, but it's a group of people within in Vancouver. But because of COVID, it got postponed. So I would want to contribute there. Hans Zimmer, if you know, Hans Zimmer is one of the greatest Hollywood background score
Yeah.
composer. Right? He's one of my inspirations, and I'm really feeling bad to say Hans Zimmer, because he's a legend. But I want to play music background score for movies, and that's one of my biggest ambitions in life. So that's something that I will try to. I will always chase after. So there are two movies that I've already signed, but again, because of this uncertainty, the shooting has not begun, and we don't know when it will be released. But that's something that I always want to.
Yeah.
And in terms of the cooking, I would want to. I mean, this is more for my wife. I'm gonna assist her in this, but we want to grow that area also, because food is a passion for me and my wife, and together we could do something that's good. Again, the whole benefit to others. So if you're able to create a recipe that helps people create good food, or create
Yeah.
quick food and save time, and use that time to enjoy other things, that would be a good value to give to people, right? So
Yeah.
that's another thing. So these are three streams. It's like casting net on these three things.
Mm.
But I'm definitely passionate about writing and music, which I would continue, and I would definitely strive to achieve something there.
Well, that was such a inspiring podcast. Unfortunately, we'll have to end because of the time limit. Every time I talk to you, John, it opens so many memories from my end, because I resonate with you on so many things. We barely started talking. I would say this is our third call, but
Yeah.
I feel somehow connected with every word you utter. So to all the listeners and all the viewers, this is John, and thanks a lot, John, for your time. Thanks a lot for all the inspiring thoughts which you shared over here with us. And I want our listeners, our viewers, to go back and just contemplate at their end how they can produce the new content rather than consuming a content. It's not that consuming a content is bad, but we have a very short period of time in on this planet that needs to make sense. Even though galaxies are around for millions of years, but our life is barely 70 years. That's like a blip on the universe.
Yeah. That,
So why don't we make it count?
yeah, that's. Thank you for that summary, Bhavesh. And, thank you for inviting me. I'm so happy that I knew you, and thank you for that message that you dropped at LinkedIn, that we are able to connect and communicate. Very, very happy to be here. And at the end of the day, if this is going to benefit, if anybody who's listening to it is benefited, and learned something from it, that would be a big success to me. And
Thanks a lot, John.